Hey everyone, it's Tim here, and I'm just going to give you a little guided description of my latest painting. So I did this painting as a commission, and it's of two horses, obviously. What I started out with is a sketch. I actually used the grid method to sketch out my horses, and then I did a tonal sketch with some burnt sienna, and then I toned the canvas with some burnt sienna as well. First thing I like to do, block in the dark colors. I try to keep the values relatively dark. Like I said, don't worry about too much of the brighter values till later. What I try to focus on is slight variation in value and warm and cool colors. So on this first horse, I just blocked in all the darkest shadows, and then I used a little bit of burnt sienna and burnt umber to block in some of the darker browns. So you can see those are a little bit different than the blacks, but it gives a little bit of depth. Then I move on to a little bit brighter brown for any areas on the horse that are a little bit brighter, but I'm still trying to block in the darkest layers of those colors. You can see it comes together pretty quickly. I try to put a little bit of a detail around the eye. But it comes together pretty quickly with the dark colors. From those dark colors, it's a lot easier to build up the lighter values on top. So if you build up the values slowly, basically using the same color ranges within the areas of the dark colors that you did, but you're just bringing the value up slightly, then you're adding in these very direct layers. Very quick brush strokes to bring up the value, and you just build it up over time basically. So whenever I get to a point where I've built a few things up, I like to add in just a few little details. But as you see, as I go through, I like to just build up the layers really slowly. I picked a very nice neutral gray background for the horses. I used a little bit of a blue within that gray, and the reason why I did that is because there's some nice like orange browns within the horses, so it gives a little bit of a close complement. Again, you can watch as I go on this second horse here. I go in with those very dark colors, I look for the next value up, and I start blocking that in. So I always start with the darkest value, move up to the next darkest value, I guess the next lightest value, block those in. Then once I get all that blocked in, I look for the next lightest value. So still working with the darks here, especially as I go through the base and the neck. Very direct with the brush strokes. I'm using a flat brush for pretty much the entire painting. I use a liner brush here and there for around the eye. But again, going nice and dark. And then when I find a value, I've filled in all of the darkest values, I find the next value up and block that in. So you can see on the front of the muzzle here, it's a little bit of a lighter value. And as I move towards the end, it gets a little bit lighter and lighter. And then I start building up those values slowly. Using a liner brush to add in those little details, the nostrils, the little shadows here and there, things around the eye. And just focusing in on basically detailing out the larger brush strokes. I'll go back in with that background color now and fill in. I'm really not too worried about getting it exactly the same as the background color I used before. I just want it close because later on I'll do another few layers of the background. So kind of just an initial block in. You can see here I switched now to a new angle, and I've already blocked it in a few times, trying to get it nice and even. And again, trying to keep it a little bit more on the blue side. As I paint in the hair on the mane or the neck, I like to use a little bit of a bluish hue because the hair is black, and a lot of times when you see some reflections on the hair, it comes off as like a blue iridescent color. So I did try to paint in a little bit of a bluish hue, and I'll play around with that as I go through the painting. Now just working up lighter values, picking out details. I actually added in the vein on the muzzle there going over the bones. Usually horses do have that. I didn't see it in the reference photo that I used, but I like to add it just so I could have an extra detail. We got a few little white strands of hair. The back part of this horse is white and part of the hair is white, so I put in a few strands there. And you can see I'm building up that bluish layer. The thing I like about doing hair is you can accidentally go a little too bright and then you can work darks back into it. As you can see, I'll do here in a minute. So just slowly adding in detail, again using the flat brush mostly throughout the entire painting. That way I get a nice loose brush stroke. Sometimes we can get a little bit carried away with putting in so much detail that we lose some of the realness. If you use a bigger brush, you're forced to kind of just be loose and use all parts of the brush, and that will help make it look a little more realistic. If you use a liner brush the entire time, it looks a little bit too thought out, to be honest, and it can take away from the painting a little bit. Alright, going into the details with the liner brush again, bringing up highlights. We'll put a little shine on the hair, so just kind of picking some spots where there might be a little bit of a flash of light bouncing off that hair. Usually those little highlights on the hair just go down the middle or in a line, and they don't cover the entire strand of the hair. Alright, just wrapping up with a few details with the liner brush. Then I'm ready to frame it up and deliver. I hope you enjoyed the process of this painting. If you want to watch it in real time with full explanation, just make sure you visit my website, timgagnon.com, for hundreds of online painting lessons. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you again soon.